There she is.
Vibes. The Longlegs marketing perfectly displayed the vibe of the film, and from the first teaser it created a clear picture of what you'd be watching. The slow push into the projected image of a family while audio of a creepy 911 call plays that then cuts to an eerie image that looks as though it's from a 90s police investigation.
Spooky, but very clear in showing that the film will be slow paced and will rely on the building of tension, which is the kind of horror film that I love to watch. I can be safe in the knowledge that I won't be wasting £30 and 3 hours of my life driving to a town I'm scared to be in at night time, attempting to find a parking space so I can then go into the cinema to sit on uncomfortable chairs while surrounded by slightly too loud people in a room that is either too warm or too cold, watching a good film while I hold in my wee since there's no pause. It takes a lot for me to watch something in the cinema, but this one caught my attention.
This is Rory Sutherland, the vice chair of marketing company Ogilvy UK, and here he is talking about Uber.
The Uber map is a psychological moonshot. What bothers us about waiting for a taxi isn't actually the duration, it's the degree of uncertainty. If you have a map which shows you where the taxi is, you're basically relaxed.
Uncertainty can kill a film in the box office because going to the cinema is a big commitment, and so you need to be certain that what you'll be watching isn't going to be a waste of time, like talking to kids who never have anything interesting to say. The Fall Guy was a recent one that underperformed in the box office, even though it has two of the hottest actors in both looks and popularity. Has a bunch of stunts, lots of high-stakes action with comedy and romance. Whoa, what the hell is it? What subgenre would this get filed away in? If we break it down into a bar graph, what would the stats tell me? Because I'm in the mood for a comedy, though I'm not sure if this is going to deliver since it could be more focused on the action. I'm uncertain as to what exactly I'm getting myself into, so I'll play it safe. I'll just wait for this to come out on streaming and watch it then, assuming it doesn't get released onto Netflix with zero marketing, leaving it to get lost amongst the pile. Fly Me to the Moon is a current competitor to Longlegs in the cinema, and this is another example of a big budget underperforming stinker, because again, what the hell is it? A comedy, a romance, a historical piece, a fake history satire, a fast-paced, exciting film? I don't know, and now you're not getting my money. It's a lot easier to do nothing than it is to do something. Doing something can be risky because it requires a cost, be that money or time, so sometimes doing nothing can be the better option, which is what the marketing team behind Fly Me to the Moon should have considered. This poster alone makes it look like the kind of film that will be playing on TV in a better film. My final example, and a fun little prediction, is Megadopolis, which is a film that even the title brings me uncertainty. This is the director of The Godfather's passion project, which is supposed to be this grand epic with an even grander budget, yet they still can't make a trailer that gives you a basic understanding of what the hell it is. Longlegs has really blown up in popularity over the past few months, not just because it looks good, but also because it paints this clear picture of what it is. It manifests that feeling of being in a dark room while periodically turning around to see if there's anything behind us. It displays the style and allows us to trust that the film will be like other films we enjoy that have expressed the same sort of vibe. It's made a promise. That's the official Longlegs trailer that I just jump scared you with. Bit of a different vibe, isn't it? This is the review scores for Despicable Me 4, and as you can see, the overwhelming majority put it into the 5-star category, along with Blade Runner, Spider-Man 2 and Love Actually. This doesn't mean that Despicable Me 4 is a good film, it simply means that the people who watched the trailer and thought, that looks fun, thought it was good. The rest of us who say, there was a third one, didn't bother to see it and give it the 2 it likely deserves. If we now take a look at the audience scores for Longlegs, we see it's very decisive, with people either leaving a 1-star or 5. But that's also a result of how people leave reviews. You're more likely to write something if it was so good you just have to tell everyone about it, or so bad you can't resist leaving a bunch of angry complaints filled with spelling errors and bad grammar since you were so furious. Rarely will the ones who go, yeah, it was alright, bother to spend 15 minutes to write down why, because there's no passion in, yeah, it was alright. If we examine the 1-star reviews, you'll notice that the common trend is that it's boring, which is wrong. It's just slow. There was a shot where the camera pushes towards an open door into the darkness outside. It lingers and keeps going and going, pushing towards nothing. It conveys the feeling of being watched, but there isn't anything there, and that made the shot far creepier than if there was. Bah! Is what the people who watched the fast-paced trailer was expecting, because that's the vibe the trailer shows. It was a compilation of the key clips with lots of loud music stings, which is basically the template for the majority of horrors, so you could have easily thought you were watching a preview for The Conjuring No. 10, The Haunting of Nick Cage. But you know what? Sometimes I actually like watching the Conjuring franchise because it's simple. I could have been one of these people who watched the trailer and got lured in for a bit of brain rot, only to be hit by a slow burn that would have made me say, oh, I can't be bothered for this.
Instead, I saw the teaser first, I interpreted the correct vibe, and I was able to keep that understanding of vibe for when I watched the trailer because of anchoring bias. This basically means you were influenced by the first piece of information you received. This is partly the reason why anti-vaxxers continue to be wrong, no matter how much you yell facts into their face. If you first watched the trailer, you would have likely interpreted the film to be a standard horror with jump scares and all of the other cliches I've seen billions of times before. Then if you watch these slow, eerie teasers, your opinions on them are being affected by that anchor of initial information. The trailer created a promise as to what the vibe would be, but then that promise was broken when the film appears to be something completely different. Longlegs isn't a one-star movie, it's just not what the people who gave it 1 star wanted to watch. But I also don't think it's a 5-star film either.
Goddamn scary, a must-see. The scariest film of the decade. You'll wet yourself, vomit and pass out in the cinema if you watch this. There's a reason why trailers show quotes, and that's because it works. This is called social proof, which is all about people following societal norms, which in this case is enjoying a film. We are prone to conforming to a group for a variety of reasons, such as assuming those around us are more informed, or simply because we don't want to stand out. This is similar to a placebo effect, where you expect a positive experience because that's what people are supposed to have, and so you create that positive experience in your head. Anything that becomes trending has done so through social proof, like the air fryer. It's just a small oven that cooks stuff slightly quicker, with the trade-off being it's more annoying to clean. Why do we even need another oven that is also an eyesore when there's not enough space in the kitchen to start with? I don't even understand why there are so many settings. Just give me temperature and time because you're just an oven. Which takes me to my next point. The downside of social proof is that it can amplify an already decisive reaction. Anytime you see reviews this split, you'll see a bunch of 1 stars rhetorically asking, why are so many people saying this is amazing? Not only have they been done by deceptive marketing telling them this is the sort of film they'd enjoy, but they've also had people promising they'd enjoy it as well. Virgin boy eggs is a traditional dish in China in which eggs are soaked and boiled in the urine of specifically young boys. Stay with me, I swear this is relevant. If this was advertised in a restaurant as just eggs, you'd be annoyed if it turned up at your table reeking of child piss. Then if the waiter describes them as delicate, salty and addictive, you would think they have completely lost their mind. And you'd want to tell everyone about these crazy people who leave buckets around schools for boys to pee in. Taste buds are similar to your taste in films because both of them are affected by what you usually eat or watch. Marketing shouldn't just be about getting people to the product, but needs to be about getting the right people to it. You wouldn't market piss eggs to everyone, and you shouldn't market Longlegs to everyone either.
You also shouldn't market Longlegs if Longlegs isn't going to be the main focus of Longlegs. The film is called Longlegs, the marketing hides Longlegs, it constantly tells us that you'll be scared by the look of Longlegs, so it's fair to say there's a lot of focus on Longlegs. But halfway through the film it stops focusing on that character, and that's where I started to lose my enthusiasm. It felt as though a promise was broken, like if the Batman film stopped focusing on Batman halfway through so it can show the story of Detective Chimp. As much as I would have loved to see what cases the chimp solves, I don't want to watch that right now, as I came here to see Batman beat up poor people. This is expectation bias, where your expectations have an effect on the outcome. I was expecting to watch a film that revolves around this one character, so it becomes a bit of a disappointment when it deviates from them. The marketing lured me in with the concept of a film, and then gave me another film that I just wasn't in the mood for. I would have enjoyed Longlegs more if I didn't see any of the marketing, and that's how you know it wasn't a completely successful campaign.
The marketing created hype, earning a lot of money, which is why everyone has been calling it genius. This perspective that many people have is very binary, in the sense of, if this figure is high, then you've done a good job. But when audience satisfaction is this mixed, can you really say it did well? Here's how they should have done it. Keep the teasers that are vague and eerie as they display the vibe. Re-edit the main trailer to be slower and without those loud music stings, so it must rely on the tension building. That once again keeps the vibe of the film and doesn't trick people into thinking it's something it isn't. Now get rid of anything that is concluded in the second act of your 3-act film, such as the cryptic letters. When you build hype using the mysteries in the plot, once they are solved, the audience members who got pulled in by that aspect no longer care. The puzzle has been completed expected, so they aren't going to be excited about being given more pieces. This is the same with the character Longlegs, who is simply a pawn within the plot. His character arc was complete at the end of the second act, and so those like myself who came for that mystery just have to wait around watching something we no longer have investment in. What should have been done is a focus on the elements that are solved in the third act, as that will allow for a building of tension throughout the entirety of the film. As you watch, you wait for all the information to solve the puzzle, with the final piece coming at the very end to complete the picture. Marketing must work in conjunction with the film, and they shouldn't be seen as two separate parts of a product. Marketing is part of the story, as it can drastically affect the experience for the audience, and so it needs to be treated with the same amount of care. Marketing is all about creating a promise to the audience, one that will be fulfilled at the very end of the film.